This is On the Line, and I'm Eric Felton. Somali pirates recently seized a Spanish fishing boat and held its 26-member crew hostage. The pirates released the crewmen after being paid a ransom reported at over $1 million. With the prospects of such handsome payoffs, pirates have attacked everything from oil tankers to luxury yachts in the Gulf of Aden. Using speedboats and armed with machine guns and rocket-propelled grenades, the pirates' attacks have become bolder and more frequent. According to the International Maritime Bureau, there have been 31 ships hijacked off the coast of Somalia last year, up from just 2 hijackings in 2004. The African coast isn't the only problem spot. This week, a Thai oil tanker was attacked in Malaysian waters near the Singapore Strait. The United States and France presented a draft resolution at the United Nations that would provide UN blessing to an aggressive campaign against pirates. The resolution would encourage countries to use, quote, all necessary means to identify, prevent, and repress actions of piracy and armed robbery. How grave is the threat of high-seas piracy, and what can be done to stop it? I'll ask my guests. Charles Dragonette, a senior merchant shipping analyst in the Office of Naval Intelligence at the U.S. Navy, and director of the Intelligence Center at Trinity Washington University, James Robbins. And joining us from our London studio, Patengal Mukundan, director of the International Maritime Bureau for the ICC Commercial Crime Services. Welcome. Thanks for joining us. Charles Dragonette, it seems as though this is a profitable endeavor. Not only were there reports that the Spanish fishing boat, that there was $1.2 million paid, but according to El País, the Spanish newspaper, the money was brought in cash, in large bags, and there on the deck of the ship, the pirate chiefs divvied up the money and handed wads of cash to the junior pirates, and they all pocketed their money and took off on their boats. How representative is this of how remunerative piracy is these days?
Well, I think it's disturbingly representative of a new trend. It had been the case that, particularly in Somali hijackings, ransom demands were met, negotiations dragged on over months, frequently over months, were negotiated down to perhaps 10% of what had been asked for, passed through middlemen in the Middle East or in Africa. The pirates themselves actually got very little. Ready cash being paid promptly is a new wrinkle. The first time we saw it was with Le Ponant a couple of weeks ago.
That's a French luxury yacht.
The French yacht. And the fact that people are willing to turn the money over in cash quickly certainly goes to the heart of protecting the lives of the people aboard the ship, which is the interest of every ship owner. But it does make it much more lucrative for the pirates if there are no consequences to having done it. As long as they stay inside waters of an ungoverned state, those consequences are fairly slight right now.
Jim Robbins, consequences pretty slight?
Consequences can be slight. In the case of the French luxury yacht, the French Special Forces took action after the ransom was paid because they'd been watching where the ship was, who was taking the money, and so forth. So in certain circumstances, when governments choose to act, they can take pretty robust action against pirates. The problem, of course, is finding them, knowing who they are, operating in these ungoverned spaces, which are really the thing that's spawning the whole piracy phenomenon. The fact that governments such as Somalia, which really has 3 or 4 governments, depending on how you count them, can't control their coastlines, and so these pirates, who are very well financed and well outfitted and well armed, can operate fairly freely. So unless the international community steps up and starts to take action against this, the pirates will be pretty much free to do what they want.
Patengal Mukundan, are you there in our London studio?
Yes.
Yeah, what's your sense of, is piracy on the rise? Are the incentives for the pirates gaining at this point?
Well, certainly in Somalia that is the case because the level of the ransoms paid have increased quite significantly. And there is concern as to what this money is doing in a country like Somalia, what it is being used for. So there is concern that the incentives are rising, and we think that the actions by the French are wonderful because for the first time the pirates have been held to account for what they have done. Until now, they were operating with impunity in Somalia because there is no national law enforcement infrastructure there to take action.
Well, Charles Dragonet, on this question of taking action against the pirates, one of the ships that was captured recently was a ship called the Svitzer-Korsakov, which was a tugboat that was taken. And the captain of that ship, who was an Englishman, Colin Darch, he said after they were ransomed that he was actually hoping there would be military action. They were ready for it. The crew was ready to barricade themselves in a part of the ship. And they even got word to a U.S. frigate that was nearby to come and take military action. The U.S. ship chose not to because they didn't feel they had necessarily permission to act in those waters. How complicated is it for military operations to be undertaken that are seen to be appropriate and have the permission of those who govern the waters that you're acting in?
Well, as Captain Mukundam pointed out, first of all, the issue of who's governing the waters of Somalia is a non-issue. Although in northern Somalia, the nominal government of Puntland has been doing a fairly good job of trying to control its own territory. However, no Somali government has given permission of another government to come in and enforce laws it can't enforce for itself. The law of the ship, in this case, Svitzer-Korsakov was a Ukrainian flagship, and it's the Ukrainian interest which rules, not necessarily the nationality of the citizens on board. The protection of the crew would typically rule. If the crew wants action, then the person sitting there capable of carrying out the action would have to ask, well, do they know what they're talking about? It sounds as if this crew was fairly well prepared. On the other hand, one has to ask, if they were well prepared, how did they allow themselves to be captured in the first place? The pirates off Somalia are not terribly good. They're not as skillful as the pirates in the Straits of Malacca. They have done their attacks in broad daylight. They've attacked generally ships with low freeboard, moving slowly, gotten them to stop by intimidation. Every ship can't outrun them, but their weapons aren't terribly effective. A rocket-propelled grenade from a Boston whaler is wildly inaccurate. There is one case several years ago where apparently a pirate put the rocket-propelled grenade through the bottom of his own boat because it was bouncing around. Nonetheless, the crew can be easily intimidated. Once they've been taken, the problem of retaking the ship gets very, very hard, and I would think everyone around the world would say concerted action to prevent them from being taken in the first place is the first order of business. How we do that with naval forces spread thin is more important than whether any individual country can act in an individual case.